Okay, welcome to Into the Channel, a podcast primarily about women's football. Before we hit the pitch, if you enjoy the show or love women's football as much as your boys do, come kick it with us already. What are you waiting for? We're doing it every single week, spanning the wide world of women's football. This week we're definitely spanning. Pour yourself a little tea, pour yourself a pint, Uber Eats yourself some fish and chips maybe, because we're headed to England. Or in Grant's case, he's already in England. Subscribe, follow YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you like to watch or listen at ITC_pod on X. If you're into that sort of thing, I am your host, Dino DeCespedes. And as always, I am joined by our Intercontinental Champion, my co-host, Mr. Grant Engel. What is up, man?
Oh, I'm feeling fantastic, buddy. Good to see you from across the pond. I think it's time. You mentioned getting a pint. This is merely a can. We just crack this baby here. But we're going today, Beavertown Gamma Ray American Pale Ale, despite us being over here in beautiful London. Yeah, it's been cool over here. Saw a couple of football matches.
Let's go.
You know, as one's likely to do over here. And yeah, happy to talk about them with you.
So, wanted to kind of zoom into the WSL this week. You know, we're hitting the stretchiest part of the stretch run here. One match left, two matches left, depends on who you're talking about. Some stakes at the top of the table. The 3 Champions League spots are locked up. Those are going to go to City, Chelsea, and Arsenal. But definitely some movement potential, some machination potential within those 3. That's going to make this next, what are we looking at? 11, 12 days here pretty exciting. So I kind of want to get into it. Midweek last week, Chelsea had a match to make up against Liverpool. Much needed 3 points. 3-3 at the end of 90. This was a big one. Obviously, like as a City follower, actually, you're not a City follower anymore. You know, our guy was in the building, sitting up in the press box as he do. But prior to that, Liverpool. This is a big one for Chelsea. They dropped points there 4-3, despite being up at one point. 3-3 at the end of 90. Their loss here kind of opened the door for City to be what we love to say here stateside, in control of their own destiny with regards to the title. So when you catch this Liverpool-Chelsea result, what are you thinking?
You just used the term, it kind of opened the door for City. And so we're going to talk about the City-Arsenal match, a.k.a. the ITC Derby. We're going to talk about that in a minute. But in that post-match press conference, and I think everybody knows the result by now, where Arsenal wins in relatively miraculous fashion.
Spoiler alert.
Manchester City manager Gareth Taylor used the exact term that you just used. When Chelsea lost that match on Wednesday, they opened the door for City to take control of the championship run. And yeah, spoiler alert's already out of the way. And then Gareth Taylor later said, and then we just opened the door back for them. So
a polite folk.
Yeah, everybody just letting everybody like, no, after you. That's exactly what it was. That was the golden opportunity for City to grab this thing by the throat. And yeah, we'll talk about it. They didn't do it.
All 3 teams in action Sunday, City and Arsenal, like you mentioned. Chelsea had a later kickoff against Bristol City. Taking a quick look at the table, before this match kicks off, so I mentioned the top 3 are locked in, but City and Chelsea obviously jockeying for the title. They're the only ones that can finish, in those top 2 slots. Arsenal, still with some stakes, they can actually catch Chelsea, especially with that Liverpool-Chelsea result midweek. Big-time Champions League ramifications with these top 3 spots. So we know that the winner of the league, they qualify for the group stage of the Champions League. They don't have to mess around any of like the league path or the Champions path. They go straight to the final 16, which is a huge advantage. You only end up having to play like 10 or 11 matches to win the whole thing at that point, which, obviously saves you a lot of time and energy, no travel. So it's a massive advantage. Now, there's also a big difference between second place and third place. So Chelsea, still mathematically possible that they can fall to the third place spot. Arsenal could leapfrog them. So Arsenal still with some stakes. Second place in the WSL gets you into round 2 of the Champions League via the league path, where they're going to be one of 10 teams, 5 of which will make the group stage. So second placers who made the group stage last year, PSG, Real Madrid, BK Häcken. So it's a path, but it's not a killer path. Now, third place in the WSL, you get dropped into round 1 of the league path, where you're one of 16 teams that still have to get to round 2 and then still have to get to the group stage from there. Third placers who made the group stage last year, Paris FC, Eintracht Frankfurt, those were 2 tough teams, obviously, that put up a real fight neither survived the group stage. Yeah, you kind of see them maybe running a little bit out of gas a little bit. And I think they got kind of worse placements with regard to just being a third place team, having to kind of go through that path.
Sure.
So all that said, I love a good machination. Real stakes here as we approach the end of the WSL season.
Yeah, 100%. And you think about Perry FC is the team who knocked Arsenal out of the qualifying stage for the Women's Champions League. And we've talked a lot about it. We love the way Perry FC played, having the pleasure to watch them throughout the actual tournament. So the higher up you finish in the WSL table, obviously you like to win it, like you pointed out, but just being able to avoid some of these other great squads around the world, I mean, it's just a no-brainer. You got to try to put yourself in that position because you don't want to run into Perry FC in the qualifying round.
Yeah, 100%. And if you enter as a second-place team, like 10 teams enter there and 5 get to the group stage. So right there, it's a coin flip, for getting through. So second place, still very valuable. Obviously, the winner of the league gets to lift the trophy and scoots right into next year's group stage. So with that said, you were in the building. Joy Stadium, Manchester. First trip to Manchester, right?
Yes.
First trip to Manchester, straight to the press box. Real quick, let's zoom out a bit. Give me like a couple minutes on just the experience. Experientially, what was it like?
I mean, first class club all the way around. Obviously, yeah, you could say I have a little bit of bias, but shout out to the media relations team. They're incredibly kind to me. Some dude who hosts a YouTube show in America applies for a press pass. I send them the links. They're so welcoming. Very, very nice. The walk up, it's right in the shadow of the Etihad. It's the Joy Stadium was originally the Youth Academy Stadium. It hosts a lot of the women's matches, the matches they aren't playing in the Etihad. It may have been discussed once or twice. The owners of Manchester City Football Club, they got a couple bucks.
Doing well for themselves.
Yeah, they've done okay. The facility, spotless, flawless, great sight lines, just a modern setup. The press room is completely flawless, gigantic screen that they had like the match playing on. So even if you had to go use the loo, as they will say here, you get to see the match on a giant high definition screen. Just a beautiful facility. Everybody was very welcoming. Obviously, I maintain my objectivity as a journalist. But yeah, just a great view of the match, a positive experience all the way around.
Very cool. Very cool. Now on the pitch, where do you want to get started?
The first half continued that positive experience for the City fans. And let me just say, the atmosphere too, absolutely fantastic. They got the big flames around the pitch going during the intros. It was loud in there. I'll give it up to the Arsenal supporters too. In the away end, they were loud. They were up for it. They knew obviously what's in stake or what they were trying to put themselves in position for. And in the first half, the side of the press box that I was on City's left-hand attacking side and Arsenal's right-hand defensive side. So I was right there looking at, and it featured heavily in the first half, Lauren Hemp versus Emily Fox. Two Into the Channel favorites right there. And they're getting after it. That was a physical battle for a lot of that first half. I thought Layla, City's left back, was also playing up there, playing an important role. Laura Coombs was up there. Emily Fox really had her hands full for a lot of the first half. I mean, Fox wasn't going to be able to do it alone. No defender could. So I want to give a lot of credit to 24-year-old Dutch defensive midfielder for your Gunners, Victoria Pelova. I thought she was really providing a lot of help on what is a very talented left side for City. I think we could chalk her up as another defensive midfielder whose style of play I really like. One more note on Fox. There was an overlapping run. I had tweeted about it. Fox was on the attack for a good bit of it too. She was really trying to kind of pull Hemp back into help and keep Layla honest to make sure that they weren't just running at Arsenal all first half. But on an overlapping run, Emily Fox just slipped and fell. And the City fans very loudly and very intentionally were like pointing and laughing at her when she just slipped and fell.
That's not nice.
It's a cold game out here.
No cosign for me on that.
That's fair.
I'm staunchly anti-cosign. Yeah, I think Pelova, I love her game. She's a little bit of a bulldog out there, and
yeah,
offensively, she's got real skills.
Hell yeah.
So I think her versatility makes her pretty valuable to the squad. I'm glad you called out that left-hand side battle because it wasn't just Hemp and Fox. Beth Mead was out there mixing it up. Chloe Kelly was like, I want to get in on this. So it was just like that was a tag team match of the first half, I would say, on that left-hand side.
For sure.
Really great action there. All four really skilled players wanting to go at each other, which was very cool to see.
For sure. In my notes, I put on there, I mean, there was a moment where Beth Mead just ripped the ball right off of Alex Greenwood. And Mead is, I mean, obviously her legend stands on its own, but she is such an instinctive player.
Yeah.
Just always standing in the right place.
Yeah. And super hungry too. I mean, I love her energy. In the first half as well, Frida Manum put a rocket on Kiera Keating, who I'm not sure how she survived it, let alone saved it, because that one was violent. Anything else in the first half stick out to you?
Probably shouldn't gloss over the opening goal there for City. I mean, it starts from the right-hand side, even as well as Hemp and Layla played. I thought you could make a real case that Mary Fowler was probably City's best player throughout the whole of the match. Yeah. So it starts with her. The ball kind of bounces around a little bit, and Lauren Hemp just does exactly what she does. She did it in the World Cup. She's done it for City several times, where she's just able to, even kind of in a little bit of chaos, she's able to get herself square and just hit the ball into one of the corners. A great goal by Hemp. The crowd was electric, but we'll talk about what happened in the second half. I thought maybe there was a little bit of laurel resting after that opening goal.
I could see that, yeah. I mean, tremendous turn and strike from Hemp.
Yeah.
She had Sinsberger completely frozen in time, just frozen. I mean, I hate to see my Arsenal get scored on, but a frozen goalkeeper also one of my great joys. So tremendous strike. In the second half, now, this is a 1-0 game, right? Obviously, Arsenal need the points. Goal differential, they're way behind. So they really are looking for results here. Jonas Eidevall brings on Kim Little at halftime for Frida Manum. Mm-hmm. Then, roughly in the 62nd minute, 3 big changes. Kyra Cooney-Cross, who I thought was really good too. I mean,
absolutely.
She's just a general. In the formation, she's up, but on the field, she's kind of back and just making sure that everything's staying relatively chill.
Yep.
I thought she had a great first 62 minutes. Stina Blackstenius comes on for her. Caitlin Ford and Steph Catley on for Chloe Lacasse and Emily Fox.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I'm not sure if this is just dumb luck, but those were some good changes. if we're just thinking about production and impact on the match. What did you see? What were the vibes like second half?
So I'm very curious because I'm obviously watching, despite being an objective journalist, I'm watching from a City perspective, and you are watching from an Arsenal perspective. This is probably a conversation that is about as old as organized football itself. The talk in the stadium, because where I was on press row, it's open air, so they're fans. I could reach out and grab one by the shoulder. Not that I would do that, but it felt like City got way tentative. It felt bus parky. It felt okay. Let's just hang on to this 1-goal lead. Fowler had a chance to put City ahead 2-0. But Zinsberger made a great save that I think ended up being very crucial. I think obviously, we talk about it. It's a totally different match if Fowler kind of gets that goal relatively early in the second half. But I'll just be honest, man, the talk around the stadium and the way it felt was that City stopped pressing. And so the reason I ask this question to you is watching it from an Arsenal perspective. Do you think City stopped pressing? Or did Arsenal get more aggressive because of those changes you mentioned?
Apologies, but I want to kind of answer, I want to explore a different question.
Let's go.
We haven't mentioned her name yet. Bunny Shaw.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, that was the thing that stuck out to me watching the first half.
Oh, yeah.
Even with Fowler had a good game. She was effective, but still kind of felt like there was a lot of wings and midfielders winging and midfielding. Right. And it's sort of like they were playing as if Shaw was there, but she wasn't there.
Yes.
There wasn't any accounting for her not being there. It kind of felt like we're going to do the same stuff and she's just not there. It's like Shaq's no longer in the post today, but we're going to just keep lobbing the ball into the center of the paint. Khadijah Shaw, 18 matches, 21 goals. Which puts her just a smidge ahead of the second place, Lauren James, who has 13 goals. She's 8 goals ahead of Lauren James, who's in second, and also Elizabeth Turland from Brighton, former Braun player. Let's go.
Nice.
Aggie Beaver-Jones, she's in fourth with 11. How about that? Let's get her some minutes. We'll talk about that later. But I don't know that they changed the way they played necessarily. I think Arsenal kind of tightened up a little bit defensively. and then obviously was maybe saving those subs to kind of go against some tired legs at City. And it was funny, you didn't get the chance to see this, but the commentator on the match, I'm watching here, shout out to Paramount Plus in the States. I mean, he was throwing announcers jinx like, I mean, he was like Mahomes, just throwing announcers jinx every chance he could. Okay, well, City doesn't lose at home. They've just got the one loss this season. If the table stays as it is, all they'll need is a draw in their final matchup. So, I mean, I'm just like, if I'm a City fan in the U.S. watching this, I'm not happy.
That's amazing.
I'm not saying, it's causation, but you could put the pieces together.
Sure.
I thought City kind of rested on their laurels is probably not the most inaccurate way to describe it.
Yeah, I mean, what can you say about Bunny? She was just this week named the Football Writers Association's Player of the Year, Women's Player of the Year.
Let's go.
Coincidentally, Phil Foden named the Player of the Year on the men's side. A couple of pretty good players, I would say. And for the record, I'm going to co-sign the Football Writers Association over here because one of their representatives listed on the website, the god herself, the greatest announcer in football in the world today, I would say, Jacqui Oatley is part of the Football Writers Association. So they know ball, obviously. But yeah, I mean, without Bunny there, and it sucks because Chloe Kelly's an excellent player. But I like your Shaq analogy. Whoever you put in instead of Bunny is just not going to measure up to that. It's not the same gravity. It's not the same effect. And so, yeah, I thought the injection of Blackstenius and Ford in the 62nd minute really seemed to help put City on their heels. Blackstenius, good-sized athlete out there. Like looking at her on the pitch, like in person, not terribly far away. I was like, oh boy, yeah, that seems to have some mismatch potential there as soon as she got onto the pitch. And I think that led to Arsenal really kind of leading in some very important categories in the second half. They had more shots, 10-7. They had more shots on target, 3-1. They had more big chances, 4-1. They had more accurate passes, which really helped wear out City a little bit. Accurate passes, 228 to 156 in the second half. And then they let in corners, 4-1. And that led to the 2 goals. So reluctantly, let's talk about the 2 goals.
I'm with it. There was a funny moment though. You texted me about Katie McCabe, who's she's got a little troll energy to her. There was a fun moment where Lauren Hemp kind of fouls Alessia Russo, and then it's kind of doing the lioness thing, like, let me stand over. How are you? All right? Let me help you up. And Katie McCabe just comes and she's like, get out of here.
Yeah.
Just happy that she's on my team and not on another team. But the goals. Blackstenius had a chance like in the 70s, in the early 70s. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, okay, that was interesting. I think they're starting to warm up here and become a little bit more offensive minded.
Yep.
What I liked about the changes, obviously they played most of the match with Russo up front. As soon as Blackstenius comes in, Russo can drop a little bit and receive more balls. Those accurate passes that you talked about, she could be more involved in those. Obviously, she's a devastating player.
Dynamite.
When she's on. I thought it was funny on the goal. Pretty much everybody that Eidevall brought in, Blackstenius, Steph Catley, Caitlin Ford, all got a touch before Blackstenius buries it. Who knows if it's a stroke of genius or stroke of good luck. But those subs paid massive dividends. And now, very, very late in the match, we are all square.
Yeah, I mean, speaking of the subs, Kim Little had an assist. Mm-hmm. Caitlin Ford had an assist. Blackstenius had the 2 goals. So, I mean, if you're Eidevall, you got to feel pretty good about that. I'll skip a little bit ahead at the post-match press conference. Quote from Eidevall, he said, before the match, I was thinking about the end of the match and thinking about load management and whose legs had how many minutes in them. And that's why I brought on Kim Little a little later in the match. He mentioned her specifically. And I will say, I didn't catch the gentleman's name, but one of the journalists who basically asked the question, Kim Little looked great. You could have started her, right? And Eidevall didn't take super kindly to that line of questioning, but then kind of said like, hey, I have some information, from training, from the load management. So that's why I brought on Kim Little later. It's not as simple as, Kim Little's a great player. I should have started her. I had some other considerations. But to your point, man, they paid off.
Yeah, I mean, I think conventional wisdom is you start your best players.
Sure.
But obviously, when you take into consideration where we are in the season,
mm-hmm.
Where players are minutes-wise, I thought it was very telling that Eidevall brings them all on with 30-plus minutes to go at the same time. It's like a line change in hockey. It's like, let's get the second unit on here and like just show them in a completely different look versus like, one here, 10 minutes later, one there. Defensively, you can kind of adjust to that a little bit better when one player comes on at a time, 10 or 15 minutes in between. So that was definitely predetermined. And then you think about like Frida Manum, who was like very aggressive in the first half. So she's probably in on the plan as well. So she knows, okay, if I get looks, I'm here to let it rip for 45. And I know Kim Little's going to come spell me, and I'm going to give everything I can in that 45. So definitely a little bit of a chess match there. I think I would have taken offense to that question too. It's just kind of like, these managers, these coaches have a lot more intel, firsthand experience than we do. And there was clearly some thought process there, some science to what Idaval was trying to do. So
I would hope so. I'm sure he's paid a handsome salary to use those thought processes. Just kind of made me chuckle a little bit. And that's a fantastic point by you on Manum being in on the plan. You got to think the same thought. I don't know. We might be playing the result a little bit here, but I think it's a great point by you, because we talked about the physicality of the Emily Fox versus Lauren Hemp battle. Mm-hmm. So if Fox knows, okay, in that last half hour, Catley's going to come on. I'm going to use this term again. You already talked about the Intercontinental Championship. That was a wrestling match out there. Not wrestling, wrestling. They were wrestling for a good 60 minutes out there. Even in the point, and I like this adjustment from Gareth Taylor on City's side, is after like 3 or 4 just like really physical kind of duels between Fox and Hemp, Chloe Kelly and Hemp just switched, and they just put Hemp at like number 9 for a minute, just so Chloe Kelly would be like, okay, fresh legs, now I'm going to wrestle you a little bit, Emily Fox from America, as you could hear whatever that old 80s song is, We're the Kids in America, the chorus to that. The Arsenal fans, when Emily Fox does something well, they say, Emily Fox from America, whoa. And I'm not going to sing it, as I've said. I'm not singing on the internet, but it's a really funny chant from them.
Yeah, one day we'll get it out of you. Last quick note on the game. I saw a short corner that City was well prepared for. Mm-hmm. Arsenal tried to pull one. So, yeah, shout out to Gareth Taylor. He did one thing. He nailed one thing, which is defended a short corner really well with not just one extra player, 2 extra players, shut that whole thing down. Who knows? Maybe that's a trend that continues. We'll keep an eye on that.
We're monitoring it. On Blackstenius's go-ahead goal, it felt like it was coming. I had put on Twitter, I'm trying to like furiously tweet like as I'm watching the match. Once they scored the first one, I described the equalizer as a devastating blow. And I didn't want to be too overreactionary, but man, you feel it sometimes in these like heavy matches where it's like, oh boy, the momentum has swung vigorously toward the other side. In the go-ahead goal, you could just watch it happen. The old school Randy Moss, where Blackstenius is running down the middle of the field and she just puts her hand up like, yeah, come on. And she gets it served into her. She knew she was open and she knew she was going to bury the header. And it's exactly what she did. And that was pretty much the death blow for City.
Yeah, perfect ball in from Little on that second one.
Yep.
And the first one, I think the emphatic nature of the finish, it's one thing like, we talked about the Aitana goal that deflects off Khadijah Buchanan. It's not quite a stunner. It's like, okay, Barcelona's going to find a way in, right?
Right.
But that one was just sit up for Blackstenius. She blasts it into the roof of the net with just a straight emphasis. So I think there's something about the severity of the goal too, not just, the game stakes. And yeah, I mean, not a great result for City, but obviously they're still in the title hunt. They've got one match to go. Chelsea, though, I want to talk about what they did. They hosted soon to be relegated Bristol City at Kings Meadow, and they gave them that work.
They sure did. There was a lot of that work to be handed out from the Chelsea Blues. It was Emma Hayes' last home match as manager of Chelsea Football Club. Her players played like it too. They responded. Guro Wrighton, 4 goals. Aggie Beaver-Jones added 2. And then you had goals from Shoka Nuskin and Niamh Charles to, put the icing on the cake there. 8-0 over Bristol City. They completely make up the goal differential. They're now 1 ahead of City on goal differential. So much for being tired. So much for those tired legs maybe dragging themselves across the finish line. It would appear like they've recovered from their devastating loss to Barcelona.
Yeah, I think they got a little R&R probably afterwards. Yeah, shout out to Guro Wrighton, first Norwegian player to notch 4 goals in the English league.
All right.
Since Saturday.
Right. Okay. Yes. Okay. I thought we were going a long-term stat. Yes. I think I saw. Yeah, I heard something about that Norwegian
That's on the
guy
men's side.
scoring for.
Some guy, I don't know, some tall
Right.
guy. I don't know. But yeah, I continue to think that without Ramirez against Barcelona, I hate to keep rehashing it, but I kind of feel like Wrighton would have brought a little pop in that match. And I think we saw maybe some of those emotions spill out because she was letting them rip. I mean, she almost decapitated Bristol City keeper Francesca Bentley on I think the third one, where Bentley's just like, she just is like, I don't want anything. I'm just gonna fall back, and if the ball hits me and doesn't go in the goal, that's great. But this game's over. Our season's over. I'm just trying to I want to make it home to my family in one piece.
Yeah.
And Wrighton just exploded. Her first one was a PK, and then she just kind of did not stop the entire match. That was awesome. But yeah, having made up the entire goal differential in one match, that's got to be really tough. Now Chelsea go to Tottenham a week from Wednesday on the 15th. This is their last game in hand. And then they close the season at United. So if they do take home the title, I think you can make the case that they probably did earn it, but still a lot of work to do. 2 more matches. And then City closed the season at Villa on the 18th as well.
You ready for a little bit? I don't even know how spicy it is. I could just tell you how it felt. One more note. Well, I don't know. I might sprinkle in another one. But another note from the City match. It felt pretty deflating when they lost that match on the Blackstenius go-ahead goal. And, I was chatting with a guy who was doing video there, real nice guy. And, we were kind of talking about the matches in hand that Chelsea had. And I kind of just floated the idea to him. I just said, 3 matches. And if Chelsea gets 3 wins, a goal differential of 7 is kind of nothing for them. And he was just like, yeah, I think they could probably make that up pretty easily. Little did we know they were going to do it in one match versus Bristol City.
Yeah.
So you can tell me whatever level of spiciness this is. I think City lost the title yesterday.
Wow.
I think by not even getting a draw at home, I think the title is Chelsea's to lose at this point.
Yeah, you might be right. I mean, they came out, I don't even want to say they came out. The match was 2-0 at halftime.
Right.
They really kind of poured it on and was like, all right, now this last 30 minutes of this match, let's put some work in, right? I think Bristol City, no interest in kind of like putting up much of a defense at all. This is our time to kind of make up some ground. You also wonder, if they don't lose to Liverpool midweek, do they have the same kind of level of like gumption going into this one?
Yeah.
And they poured it on big time. Shout out to the Chelsea crowd too. They're just straight hooligans out there. Like at 7, they're like, we want 8. We want 8. And then the minute the 8th one goes in, it's immediate. We want 9. Just fucking wild out there. Yeah, that was fun. Not if you're a Bristol City fan, but I think the pressure is real. Like at this point in the season.
Sure.
Championship experience is real at this point in the season. Teams do make the leap, are able to get over the hump at some point. But it does feel now like Chelsea's kind of in control. And you're really looking for them to stumble. We'll see what this match against Tottenham has in store.
For sure. And I mean, they have to play at United in the last fixture of the season. So they lost 2-1 to United. That was the FA Cup. But they did beat United at home 3-1 earlier. That was way back in January, though. So, I mean, we're kind of talking about a different animal at this point. With basically no goal differential to speak of and no Bunny Shaw, now, as a Manchester City fan, you have to look over at those Red Devils and say, can you do us a solid, please? Can you help us out a little bit? And you never like to be in that spot.
Yeah, I hear that. United's got one of my favorites, though, Jace, who leads the league in progressive carries, 79. So they're going to need a few of those against Chelsea to kind of get it done. Katie Zellum on the United side, also the league leader, shot creating action. She's got 94 on the year.
Nice.
There's some potential there. We're not going to give them the title just yet. But yeah, again, you mentioned it earlier. Shout out to Emma Hayes in her final match at home. Great run, great career for Coach. And we're excited for her next venture. I'll just leave it at that.
I'll say that. I mean, I'll echo that. She's going to give some spicy press conferences, I bet, for the U.S. women's national team. I mean, I think she grabbed the microphone and said the job's not fucking done yet, or we're just getting fucking started, or I I can't remember what the exact quote was, like making sure that she let the Chelsea fans know, like, this isn't the end of anything. Like, you guys still are a great club and you're going to continue to dominate the league, at least in her eyes. I think they're going to play it out, and I don't mean to sound overly pessimistic. And like you said, like, United has a lot of great players, and Tottenham, they're not stiffs either. Tottenham, they're sixth in the league, sitting on 28 points, and you got to go play at Tottenham. This will be the last thing that I say about the City Arsenal match that I thought was interesting from the post game presser. Is we mentioned Gareth Taylor, City manager. He said in the post game, quote, "Nothing has changed in our thought process. We knew we had to go to Villa and win," end quote. And I just got to say, that's not really accurate. I don't think the table math adds up to that, because if you beat Arsenal in that match, you could leave Villa with a draw and you win the league and you're not worried about goal differential whatsoever. So I don't think that Taylor was going in there thinking, okay, a draw is good enough. I can't imagine any manager who would have that kind of mentality. But when he said that, I think that was one of the final questions he answered, if not the final answer he gave. And he walked out, and a couple of the journalists, like, we just kind of looked at each other like, nah, I don't think the math really works out on that. Like, you wouldn't have, like, if you came into this match, like, yeah, you want to win every match. I get that. But that couldn't have been your mentality just going into it. Unless your mentality was, and maybe this is what he meant, like, I do not mean to misquote him in any way or misinterpret what he was saying. If he was saying, yeah, we wanted to beat Arsenal and then beat Villa, I guess that's fine. But the math is the math. If you get a win versus Arsenal, all you need is a draw.
Right. And then you can't just go and say all we need is a win at Villa.
You don't now.
No.
You need a big win.
Big win. Big yeah. big win. Great weekend of WSL action. Great weekend for the show. Still a lot of football to be played out there that we're going to be locked in on. We're going to see where the title chase lands. We're going to see who grabs those Champions League spots, who grabs those specific Champions League spots. Mm-hmm. So yeah, we'll be locked in. Anything else you want to hit before we get out of here?
There are a couple brief things. I want to keep it brief. We're in the outro. I know we are in the outro, but hold on. Let me just get this one more. I'm going to get this going. This is for me to enjoy after the show. I'll just show it here. This one is called Beavertown Neck Oil, a session IPA. Love the names over here in England. I'm sure they look at our beers. They're just like, Funky Buddha Hop Gun, what the fuck are you on about, right? Like, so, I like to laugh at their funny beer names. I'm sure they do the same to us. Yes, I've been over here in England. Let me just say, the time change for us in the States to watch English football, yeah, it can be a little rough for me living on the West Coast, like for those early mornings. To try to keep up with NWSL matches from over here is real tricky. But nevertheless, the Chaos League is in full chaos mode. Mm-hmm. So we know, like, we have a lot of folks. We appreciate all our pals over here in the UK and just kind of Europe in general. But the NWSL is amazing. It's in full chaos mode. The games are insane. NWSL After Dark, which turns out is pretty much every match over here in this time zone. And I don't know, buddy. I saw an Orlando Pride result yesterday. I don't know. Am I looking at this right? Where is the Orlando Pride on the table right now?
All right, so I'm going to check here. I'm going to start from the bottom, work my way up. Okay. Right, up. There they are. Very top of the league.
Look at that.
What do you know? I was listening to some small plucky podcast called into the channel that predicted that this Orlando Pride team would be in the final.
Let's go.
I didn't have them winning, so apologies, Barbara. But, I did my best. But, yeah, sure. They're looking like a real contender. 5 wins in a row. That was after opening the season with 3 draws. So still undefeated, never lost.
Nice.
The Current do have a game in hand. They might be the only team out here that might be able to give us a run. We'll see. Still early. But, yeah, the league's cooking, man. And I think it's still just getting started. Like we mentioned, we're only 7-8 matches in to what's going to be a loaded schedule. Going to be a bit of a marathon, so we'll see who's able to survive the whole thing.
For sure. I mean, Washington Spirit has won 5 matches. They're sitting at third on the table. Portland Thorns have won 4 on the spin.
Mm-hmm.
They were like in the cellar for those opening couple weeks. And we're like, oh no, what's wrong with Portland? And they're like, oh no, we forgot we were Portland for a second. And now they're right back in the thick of things, sitting in fourth in the table. And, some people's, not necessarily mine as an objective journalist, but some people's Seattle Reign notched a pretty exciting win, down a player for a majority of the match to kind of vault themselves back up. Seattle Reign only 3 points out of the playoff race right now. It's early in the league. A lot of football to be played. I imagine this table is going to adjust several more times, except maybe Orlando being at the top of the table, because I think they have the best player in the league. I think they have some of the most depth in the league. So I think your squad is really cooking with something down there.
Yeah, it's definitely exciting. And yeah, shout out to the Reign. Nice late goal from Latsko.
Yeah.
Just before clock hits 90 to get them a big win.
Needed that.
They were talking on the telecast that the Wave, I think, has yet to ever take a point at Seattle. I'm going to have to double check that.
Amazing.
Yeah. I'm quoting the commentator. So if I'm wrong, we're wrong. We're all wrong. It's okay. We move on. But to echo your point, to all of our European watchers and listeners, to all of our global watchers and listeners, if you're not watching the NWSL, at least, kind of have it open in a window on your browser where you're just kind of popping in and seeing what's going on. Catch a few highlights, listen to our show. We'll kind of get you all caught up. And if you can catch matches, it's a very, very high caliber football, and the global nature of where players are coming from. A lot of European players, African players, South and Central America, a lot of American players, obviously, Canadian players, Caribbean, the whole football world is really, really well represented. Australia as well. I think a lot of Asian players, it really is a truly global league.
No doubt.
Definitely worth watching. And hopefully my boy here and myself, we can bring everybody into the tent. We'll all have some fun together, enjoying some NWSL alongside all of the great football we're watching in all the other great leagues around the world.
No doubt, including, of course, never to be forgotten, Norway's top Syrian, never forget, SK Braun, 4 wins on the spin, baby. They're coming back, climbing right back up the table. So, we got our eye out on them for sure.
Absolutely. All right, man. I think we did it. It's been another episode of Into the Channel. Thank you for watching, listening, liking, subscribing, just plain hanging out with your boys, regardless of where you are on this planet. And remember, like if you liked, and subscribe or follow into the channel, YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you like to watch or listen, at ITC_pod on X. Quick reminder, we will be going live after the Champions League final, Saturday, May 25th. We're also going to have some Champions League previews coming up. We're going to be covering some NWSL next week. When the WSL wraps up, we'll have some stuff on that. And a big thank you to my co-host, now the 2-time Intercontinental Champion, Mr. Grant Engel. I appreciate you, man.
I appreciate that, buddy. Thanks for working with the time difference with me. And yeah, I love it over here. I'm trying to figure out my way to make it over here long term. But I miss my French bulldog back in the States. Gonna go back and kick it with her. And we'll be back to kick it with you guys next week to talk about more of the football. For now, cheerio.